What's up, beautiful people? Let's get blissed out. A little bit of David Primo. Written.
In the light of love, we are home. In the light of love, we are home. In the light of love, we heal and sing.
So that's just an intro with music, because creativity, music, and wellness are the three pillars here with Blissed Out Network. As I flow and get creative every week, I have an amazing friend here beside me who has been one of my mentors, and also a family friend. So much growth in the last decade with him, and I felt, this wonderful series that I've been wanting to bring out to the world. Not only, in the last year or so, it's over like a decade, where I was like really thinking, when would be the right time to bring out Tantra in the world? And with all that's happening in the world, and all that's going on with the changes, I really felt we can contribute by offering topics to transform consciousness, by shedding light on such topics like this. So this is In the Light of Love, Tantra Podcast Series with myself and Andrew Rezmer of Conscious Living Radio. Welcome to the show, Andrew Rezmer.
Thank you.
So I'm going to talk just a little bit here, friends, as you watch. This podcast is going to be a nice flow of back and forth communication on certain areas of growth in Tantra. I will be asking Andrew some questions, and I'm just going to highlight a little bit here about what is Tantra. And so I sat and I thought to myself, rather than borrowing knowledge from Google and all the other things that are going on in studying over the years with Tantra, what was it that led me to Tantra? And I sat there for a while and I was like, well, it was sacred intimacy that reflects the soul and explores the body mind with the art of sexual intercourse through the flow and connection to the higher self. So then I further went and I looked into Google and I reflected that, and it said the purpose of Tantra yoga is to enhance spiritual growth and physical well-being through the exploration of these energies and their connection to the universe. The purpose of life and the connection to others can be understood in a new dimension. So that being said, I see myself reflecting, having people like Andrew Rezmer, who's leading Conscious Living Network and putting on a lot of these topics and helping consciousness to get out to the world. I felt, what a wonderful way that we can highlight a discussion and reflection on intimacy and connection with the higher self. So that leads me to some questions I have for Andrew Rezmer so that he can offer his feelings and his journey. So the first area I want to draw a little bit of attention to for the listeners is aloneness and connection to oneself with Tantra. So let's talk about the journey with self-love and how connecting to the higher self, Andrew, and meditation has opened up the art of sacred intimacy in your life.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me, although I don't really feel that I'm qualified to talk about Tantra because I know so many people who devoted their entire life to studying this art and this philosophy, and practiced it for many years, decades. And I haven't done either of those. I do explore intimacy, connection, sexuality. I take lots of courses, but I don't consider myself an expert. I have more questions than answers. But in that spirit of inquiry, I accepted your invitation to have this conversation. So again, as long as you don't expect me to be an expert and don't put me on the pedestal of someone who knows all the answers, let's just have a conversation about this topic.
Yes.
Cool. So a journey with self-love and how connecting to higher self and meditations and open the art of sacred intimacy in my life. I tend to try to go as deep as possible in every aspect of my life, and intimacy, connection, sexuality are essential components of healthy life, and I believe that our emotional health, our spiritual health, our physical health, all of those aspects of life are tightly connected with each other And sexuality, intimacy, has impact on all of those aspects. So without healthy intimacy, it's going to affect our physical health. It's going to obviously affect our emotional and spiritual health as well. So it's almost like a precursor, like a foundation of healthy living, is to explore, deepen, put energy, time, and thought into deepening our ability to connect intimately with another person, in a way that we would consider a sacred connection.
Mm.
So I've been on that path for as long as I remember, and as I say, I still consider myself a student more than a teacher of this path.
Mm.
How about you? How have you kind of bumped into this topic, and why is it so important to you?
Well, for me, I really feel I started yoga when I was 15.
Hmm.
And my awakening with yoga, it wasn't like I wasn't really aware of it other than it purchasing me when I left my family. So when I left my family and I knew that there was some things that were through love that were connecting me to leave Ontario to come out to BC, it was just about love. But I was so receptive from doing years of yoga and losing weight that I started to feel very receptive and fine energies, which I didn't understand. They were like magical for me. I'm like, wow, and like the subtle energies as a child, I'm sure I always carried that, but the hardness of the world, the hardness and the shapes of the world, by forcing us to think a certain way or to go to school to be a certain way. I think there were layers upon me that didn't allow me to hear my inner guidance and hear, the pleasures or the intimacy that I always had it there. Even as a child, I would chase boys in the playground, so how I came to understand Tantra and this wonderful sacred art really started from breathing and yoga, and then reflecting that through disciplines and trying to understand it through lineages of things that happen in India 5,000 years ago with Radha Krishna or Shiva Parvati, and that journey with yoga, deeper understandings with bhakti and devotional service. And that all led me to the sacred divine masculine and feminine understanding. In the beginning, obviously, it's just on the surface level. It's so much on the surface level of, I'm born white Christian. Here I am in the world. This is the way that my brain's been trained. And then I'm doing all those cycles through meditation and being on my own. I really saw it was a aloneness where Source found me in a room and went kaboom, and meditation opened up those doors. So just allowing energy to rise in my body, and the amount of energy that was in my vortex, it was just, I felt there was something outside of me. I didn't really know it was me, and it wasn't my higher self. So that took time to discover. How that led to Tantra was really, the beginning of seeing into tantric understandings really was, we all know that our parents teach us that, yeah, it takes two people to have a baby. It takes two people to have sex to create something wonderful. If we have guidance from Christianity, it was all about how you could have a sacred relationship and be holy according to Christian belief systems. But then there was this whole world of yoga and this whole ancient wisdom of the Vedas that were showing me all these different gods and forms that I was like, oh, okay, what's all this mean? And so as I reflect with you, because I know that reflection in you from knowing you for so long, I felt, it's important for us to just role play in helping people open doors as leaders in the community with networks. If we're going to lead anything, we have to show our vulnerabilities. And a vulnerability with connecting to sacred intimacy for me was having a love affair, with Krishna, for example. I realized after doing all my bhakti and going to these temples and wake up in the morning and all these gurus meeting me, that I actually was so in love with Krishna that I suffered from that so much. I suffered by studying everything about him at that time in my life and wanting to have sex with him and really understanding that within myself, because I wasn't receiving that kind of love in a male figure in my life from my father or from the father of my kids or any other relationship from there. And I really felt like that archetype of love that I was connecting to in Krishna and all the old wisdoms of Kama Sutra and Tantra. They were all pure, but somehow that wasn't engaging in my life. So I went on a pathway to understand myself by realizing energetically what I was connecting to with Krishna, and how can I find that on earth?
Have you?
How can I find that?
Have you found it on Earth?
I found it in myself.
You found Krishna in yourself?
Yeah.
I think that's actually very interesting side kind of road that I hope we can take for a minute or two, because I see, especially women, they have the image. In your case, it was Krishna. For some other, it could be Jesus, or it would be some male figure that is perfect, that has all the attributes of what we are looking for in the partner, and then no human can live up to that expectation. And I see not many, but few of my friends suffering because of this perfect ideal image of someone who may or may have not existed, and comparing it to the men who are our potential partners. Has that been a challenge for you, or have you made peace with the fact that Krishna is a symbol that we strive towards, but not everybody can necessarily achieve that?
Well, Krishna was one part of the play with this journey. And what I really love about understanding now that I've grown through understanding my purpose with ascension, because this took 30 years of a lot of meditation to see, okay, Bhakti Yoga was one door, Hatha Yoga was another, Ashtanga, all these different files in your files, whether it's mathematics, science, or cooking, or kind of finding what it is that the inner self finds joy with, and just going with that, because it just works, and you just know. So as I found myself, it was never that I was comparing anybody to be like Krishna, because when I truly discovered through chanting a mantra, or like serving, or being with gurus, or having astral travels, having amount of light pass through my body, when I truly understood what consciousness was, I understood that that was really what Krishna was trying to show me within me, and that bliss within me. So trying to think that another man is less or more than that, no, because that pure reflection just meets humans and has a pure reflection. Ideally, I have suffered with trying to find the right partner, but I've realized through laws of attraction that has been something in me I need to work on. What was it in every interaction was my mind thinking? By discovering my mind, what was I thinking in that moment that's holding me back from having that love? Or what am I putting too much pressure on in these areas? And so, yes, have I developed, more healing and more transformation through right and wrong relationships? Yeah. And I show up every day trying to better myself. But I really don't think I'm comparing anymore to where men are in comparison to pure cosmic consciousness. It's whether or not they're doing their work every day in some area with pure cosmic consciousness, because I don't need to limit myself in a relationship anymore because of what I've discovered in myself.
Yeah, that's more or less what I believe as well, is that I believe that purpose of relationship, any relationship, if it's intimate or just friendship or family relationships, any type of relationship, purpose of it is to actually support each other growth and expansion. And this corresponds with the different, I think they call it levels of relationship, which David Data or Tony Robbins or Satyen Raja, all those amazing teachers talk about, is that usually when we start, or at least before we start working on our own understanding, we look for someone who is going to provide something that we feel or we need or we miss. So it's almost like okay, I need something, and I'm going to attract someone, or I'm going to seduce someone, or I'm going to bring someone to my life who is going to fill that void that is inside my heart or my soul. or it's a physical need, or it's a camaraderie, or is it whatever a need there is, or at least perceived need. So that's the first kind of level of relating to the other. And then it's more, okay, in order to attract someone that is going to give me what I need, I have to offer something in exchange. So there's this second level, okay, give and take. You scratch my back, I scratch your back, and then hopefully we are going to be happy with what we get. And that's where I think majority of relationships are in most cases, is this give and take. The next level is where I feel that my pleasure is from seeing my partner achieving, experiencing something that she wants, if my partner is a female. So it's my fulfillment is by witnessing and helping and supporting the person that I love experience something that she wants to experience. So it's a through that. And the next level after that is that our union, our companionship, our work together, our expansions together is actually expanding beyond us. It's healing the world, it's healing the planet, it's helping humanity. So the purpose grows from just me to us, from us to the family, from the family to community, from the community to the country, from the country to entire universe.
So well said. And I'm relating to that just because I will tell you, the beautiful thing, even though I've reached those peaks of super consciousness within myself, and I'm very open in service and to being myself and showing up with what my inner guidance says, is that everything is real. Everything is real in the good and bad. What we're experiencing is whether or not we want to choose to rise above the darkness and the shadow of the unconscious. I've been doing a lot of shadow work lately and understanding more of the shadow within myself and what I experience when my needs aren't met, or when somebody can't adore me the way that I feel. And I try to grow through that, and I try to express myself by saying, okay, well, this is what I need. Can you hear me, or can you feel me? And when people can't, I'm okay also with releasing and letting go and allowing source to bring it right to me. Because I really believe if I'm creating a desire within me, it's source. And those feelings, it's amazing how I've been talking a lot in the last series that I did with Dr. Warko about the razor's edge, and, jumping into understanding yourself more deeper and deeper, is that you will have fulfillment simply by expressing and understanding yourself. That in my astral travels, when I'm not fulfilled in a moment, I just release it, I let go. And then somehow or other, source finds me in another form and shape. And so this is where I want to bring in more about the art of witnessing, because I hear you talking in that last bit of your steps about, how you grow and you develop yourself through your connection with another individual. And then the witnessing of service, devotional service in love, you see that expand and multiply into our community, right? So tell me about the inner witness. What does it mean to you?
Well, inner witness, what do you mean?
Inner witness, like the
what does it mean
observer.
for you, before I answer my version of inner witness?
My version of the inner witness, my version of the inner witness came through pure alignment in silence. And so I was able to watch from a state of no mind. I was able to watch and observe my surroundings and appreciate. And then be able to take that from a daily meditation into appreciating life every day, and what I create, what I co-create. That's what the inner witness was for me. And then I take it in the moments when I'm called into seeing things and feeling things, and then acting upon them with action.
Well, I think I have a little bit different approach to that concept of inner witness, because I believe that each of us is practically a god. creating our own unique experience of this world that we're witnessing. But we are witnessing and creating it at the same time. So we're witnessing our own creation. Sometimes unconsciously, we are surprised by what's happening, who we meet, what's happening in our life. But if we really go deeper, if we really go layer by layer, we find that we have created, we have contributed, we have in some way called this into our life, this person or this relationship or this challenge. And so it's almost like creating and witnessing is the same act. And so the reason why I ask you for your version is to make sure that we don't invite people to separate themselves from the reality or from their own experience and witnessing as if it was something that is happening to them. Mm-hmm. Instead of them creating it. Yes. Co-creating it.
Yes. Very nice. The art of co-creation, deliberate creation. Thank you, Andrew. Very good highlight. I really love this. I love where love is bringing it. And I still want to go deeper a little bit because I know this is going to be our first podcast, but I want to go a little bit deeper into opening up a little about the intimacy aspect with Tantra, what you understand about that, while connecting with the flow state with your higher self. What methods do you enjoy experimenting with?
It was breaking up when you were reading the question. Can you read it again?
Yeah. So while connecting with the flow state with your higher self, in flow with your higher self, what methods do you enjoy experimenting with Tantra or with, any aspect of Tantra? I mean, it doesn't mean necessarily having sex, but just like the gazing of that intimacy. What are your what do you like to experiment with?
Well, it's for me, one of the biggest joy and form of expansion is different states of consciousness, which could be, in my case, I can enter through meditation, through different ceremonies, including spirit plants, and through intentional activities. In case of intimacy, it would be with my partner. And those intentional activities could involve devoting our entire day or afternoon or evening or night to connecting on a different level. So instead of watching TV where one of us is going to fall asleep, or instead of doing something with that takes away from our presence to each other, we shut the world to outside, and just create the inner world just within our realm. So my partner and myself, and it could be starting with just witnessing each other presence, with eye gazing, gentle touch, cuddle, hug, anything that allows to experience the feeling of being accepted, being adored, being connected, being in the moment, that there is no past, we don't know nothing about the future. Now we are with each other, 100%. And so that's an entry point. And where there, I try not to have necessarily, checkpoints and list of activities that we're going to do, because then it becomes a bit too mechanical, too school-like, or it has to flow, it has to come out naturally. Although, because we've done it so many times, there are some destinations that we may want to go back to, or sometimes we go to completely new place in our experience together. But I think there's this essential component of bringing each of us, my partner and myself, in the time and space where we are devoted to each other. Nothing else exists. That I'm seeing my partner, I'm feeling her, I'm touching her, I'm connecting with her, and through words, through exercises, through touch, through eyes, through taste, whatever way we want to connect and be with each other in that moment.
Very nice. I love how you reflected on the flow state too, because yeah, I guess the art of witnessing, if you have been meditating for a while, or even understanding that you are co-creating your existence, you wake up with a new thought or feeling, and it's all about how you shake into it or you move into it. It's always new. It's always a rebirth, right? So yeah, for me, I just wanted to share and highlight with the audience when they watch, how creative we are with our arts, how expansive we are. How are we on that razor's edge? Are we on the razor's edge with the next question about what does living fully and loving unconditionally mean to you? Living fully and loving unconditionally. So I know this is something that you talk about a lot more, about living fully, loving unconditionally. I see it every time I see you. Expand a little bit on it.
Okay. Well, let's start with unconditional love, because it's such a almost cliche. It's almost this invitation that is on the greeting cards. Unconditional love. What does this really mean? Like, let's just put it into blocks, the smallest pieces. Unconditional love, meaning that we would love every human being the same way. There won't be loving someone more or less, because it's unconditional. Unconditional means there is no judgment, no condition, no separations, no levels, no deepness. It's the same. So you would love every kid same as you would love your kids. You wouldn't treat them differently. You love all men. You love all animals. You love all expression of life, every creation, everything you love, because it's unconditional. You cannot say, oh, I love humans, but I don't like this. Loving unconditionally means that you love Monsanto the same way as you love organic gardener, or you love Saddam Hussein the same way as you love Gandhi. That's because it's unconditional. So by just even this concept of unconditional love, it's almost seems to invite us to completely drop our ego, because if we have an ego, the ego means that we separate ourselves from the rest. So I am, by saying that, I created something that is separate from the rest, myself, and I'm now looking into you or the world and communicating, trying to share whatever I existence, my existence of me means to me, and now you are separate. So by imagining a world where we live with an unconditional life, that world would not exist, because there would be no separation between anything, because we would love everything same. We wouldn't be able to judge. We wouldn't be able to say this is good, this is bad, or this is left, this is right, this is up, this is down, because it's unconditional. There wouldn't be any way to even separate, even create difference between, because by creating difference, we're judging, we're evaluating. This is light, this is dark. But if there's unconditional, there's no difference between light and dark. And at some point, on some level, intellectually, we could get to that point that you can't really experience pleasure without experiencing pain. Because if you only experience pleasure continuously, it's like that example of a fish being in the ocean. As long as that fish is in the ocean, doesn't know that there's something beyond the ocean. So like same here. If we always experience light, we can't see the stars because you need darkness in order for stars to be seen, right?
Mm.
So on one way, on intellectual way, we could get to the point where we can say, okay, everything is needed in the world. Everything. It's the violence is needed in some cases. The judgment is needed in some cases. Criticism is needed. Negativity is needed because you wouldn't be able to. There's this range from one to the other, but everything helps something else to to be created to um, have its purpose. And so on the intellectual level, this unconditional love and acceptance to all that there is makes sense. But on the actual physical and emotional and spiritual level, because we have separated ourselves from the world by creating our own unique self, our ego, because of that, then this ego is going to continuously have some preferences, some values. Some people will like Tantra, some people will not, and then so now those who love Tantra are going to talk about it and try to convince others that Tantra is the best thing after sliced bread. And those who think that Tantra is just a way to manipulate into something that, someone doesn't want to go, that's how they're going to perceive this art of connection. So that's the kind of my blabbing about unconditional love. What was the second part of the question? Oh, the first part of the question.
The other part is just about living fully. Like for me, I was highlighting the razor's edge, and that was my training in Zen, was just to really live for the now as totally can and transform into the next moment. What's your view on living fully?
Yeah, of course. Again, is this concept, what does it mean to live fully? And it's so personal. I know people who, for them, um, having expensive cars and dining in the best restaurants and flying first class all the time, that's what living fully is for them. I have a very good friend, you know him too, who doesn't have a bank account, doesn't have a house. He devoted his life to helping others and doesn't charge for it. If people choose to give him some token of appreciation, then he has those things that people give him. He's using a car that was gifted to him because someone would have died if not for his help. So, but for him, full life is being in service, being providing something that other people need and nobody else can offer. That's for him. That's for him is living fully. I know many beautiful parents who their devotion is to their kids and everything. There's nothing more important than seeing them happy and their kids happy and joyful. And that's how they express living fully for them is to knowing that their kids are happy. So what does it mean to live fully? In my case, my personal attitude towards living fully is to continuously grow. I just love the expansion. I love seeing myself that what I thought was true yesterday, and I found that it's not true anymore. I actually get excited about it. Some people, oh my God, I've wasted my time thinking that this was true. No, I'm grateful that I know that what I thought was true yesterday is not. And I don't know if what I know today is true. Probably tomorrow is not going to be, but that means that I'm expanding, that I'm growing, that I'm becoming more of who I want to be, because that's for me.
Consciousness, the awareness, I can see that. Likewise, myself, even reflecting from that, living fully, I think when it comes to the rules of Tantra and connecting in any relation or relating, reflecting, each one is offering us what we thought was true yesterday is different today. Right? Each aspect of love. And I just learned, about what was the feeling place for me. Where did I come back to? It's all about my center, because the more that I just drop into my center, the more that I appreciate the joke, the fluctuation of life itself. And in any given moment, how to ride that wave, whether I'm in the peak of ecstasy in a moment of what that means, or I'm in the valley milking it in, and while we're ending this, just because of our timeline, I think that would be a really great way just to give a little bit more about the peaks and valleys of intimacy, for the networks to see, and exploring this, what we thought yesterday and what we know today, is encouraging, what are your feelings about peaks and valleys? My understanding with the peaks and valleys is like, I want to milk both of them. Right? I learned that a long time ago in meditation, is like, when I'm breathing in it, I want to milk in the deeper aspects and feel it longer and become it more and get deeper in my silence and my gratitude. But then I saw the natural nature of, different aspects of what I thought I knew yesterday, a different feeling with me yesterday. Was so excited and ready to put on a show, and I was like doing push-ups and sit-ups and all these kind of things. And I'm like, in sex, I was like, oh yeah, let's fuck right now, like that excitement, woo! And then milking in the silence in a whole other place. And I don't know where that's played a role for you in your life, but just being human, I mean, like, there's our peaks and our valleys. Let's talk about peaks and valleys. Tell me about your peaks and valleys.
Yeah, well, exactly. I think you already answered the question better than I probably will. Every place we are in life is a lesson, it's opportunity to grow and expand. And if we allow ourselves to sit and see around, what is the lesson? How can I grow? How can I become wiser, kinder, more loving, more compassionate, more forgiving, more understanding human being? Then it's what you're calling it, milking it. It's there is something out of it, regardless if it's a breakup or if it's a earth-shattering orgasm. Both of those have same potential to make us more of who our full potential is, to grow into love, compassion, kindness, and understanding. So that it's with Tantra or with other form of intentional growth in intimacy, you can get to points where I can have, and I can bring my partner to an orgasm just by looking at her in the public space when she's sitting, across the room from me, and there's no touch, there's no words, there's no, yet we know each other so well that we can, through our breath, bring ourselves to orgasmic state without anyone knowing. So yes, those are some peaks, some amazing, experiences, or few hour long orgasm, or whatever other kind of things that people may want to achieve. And okay, I've done that, I've done that. But as you said, and I love that you brought this up, those valleys are the time to. I like climbing, and I used to ignore the valley because it was always about being on the top. Always, how much longer? I'm going to push through. I'm going to suffer. I'm going to go, and I'm going to just think of this peak. Once I achieve, I'm going to be on the top, and I'm going to be like a king. I'm going to see everything around, and I'm going to be on the top of this mountain that I. And then one of those days, I had lot more time. I had to be on the top of this mountain in few hours, and it was much more than I needed to climb. So I started appreciating the environment that I was in, and I was in this valley, and that was curved by a very strong river thousands of years ago, and I saw the layers of different sediments of soil and different life that was there, year by year, hundreds years by hundreds of years, all this past, all this life that was there, all this raging river that created that valley, all those boulders that have been moved, all those trees that their still roots are there, even though trees are gone, all of it, it's just gave me this appreciation for, yes, this peak. When I'm on top of the peak, I see from the distance, I see the far, but I don't see what's below my step. Because what is creating this mountain, this strength of this mountain, this stability of this mountain to push it so high. There is millions of different rocks and things below that I've ignored in the past. So there is value in everything we do in life, especially in a relationship, intimacy, and every aspect of this could help us grow and become better.
So good. On that note, we're finishing with wonderful 40 minutes here. Blissed Out Network, Conscious Living Network. It's so good to reflect these things. We're hoping that this helps nourish your soul, nourish your feelings. Please drop messages below for me or Andrew, or direct messages us what you'd like to hear next in this wonderful podcast series. And it's so good to be with you, brother. So good.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.